Today, I want to answer the question of what skills do I need as a user experience professional? So this is a question that comes up in my inbox all the time. People want to know, what skills do they need to stand out? What skills do they need in order to get the next job or in order to get promoted at their existing company? What skills are they going to need to acquire so that they can be prepared for those future opportunities that they want to pursue? A bit about me first, though, in case we haven't met yet. My name is Sarah Doody. I run a program called the UX Portfolio Formula, which helps user experience professionals at all stages of their career really learn how to articulate their work, create a portfolio, and figure out the job search and interview preparation process. And 1,200 students have been through the program and have been hired at companies such as Microsoft, Home Depot, American Express, Salesforce, Deloitte, Royal Bank of Canada, a ton more. But let's dive into the content for today. So, what skills do you need to acquire as a user experience professional? So I think we have a little bit of a misconception where we might be focusing on the wrong skills, because UX professionals really need to go beyond likely what you're focusing on right now. That might be things like, for example, software. You are trying to figure out, do I learn this new software, that new software? Do I need to be able to make interactive prototypes using fill in the blank, whatever software you want to learn? The next is you need to go beyond memorizing processes. So many people say to me, do I need to know the this method or the that method? Or they ask me my opinion of certain methods. And to be brutally frank with you, sometimes I've never even heard about these things. And that brings us to the point of a lot of these things that you feel pressured to learn may not be skills that will be lasting. What happens if that software, that you're learning all of a sudden doesn't exist in a year? Back when I was starting out, a lot of people learned Flash, and guess what? A lot of those people who were Flash experts aren't doing Flash anymore, but also maybe they neglected other skills that made it harder for them to get jobs after Flash wasn't, such an in-demand thing. Also along the lines of processes is terminology. Again, people ask me all the time, have you heard of this term, or what do you think about that term? And sometimes I've never even heard of the term. This just happened on my office hours a few weeks ago, where someone said, oh, well, then I applied and I forget what it is. But I said, honestly, I have never heard of that. Like, what are you talking about? And it's because in the real world, a lot of time, we're not throwing around all these terminologies and we're not rattling off processes kind of from a textbook. We are doing the work. The next thing you need to go beyond is making deliverables and just being the hand that moves the mouse and makes these pretty deliverables. Of course, this is part of your job, but you're going to see how it's more important to develop these other skills, especially if you want to differentiate yourself from kind of just being more on the junior side of things, I would say, to maybe getting more into design leadership or management in whatever area you are in. Finally, you need to go beyond chasing trends. So this I see a lot when it comes to the visual design side of things. A lot of people are focusing on what it looks like and does it look sexy and polished and whatever is kind of popular out there right now. But all of those trends, they're going to fade, just like fashion. So you need to not get married to these trends and make your design dependent on you kind of designing to the trend. You need to make sure instead that what you create, what you do is timeless. Because if you only focus on these really basic skills, you're going to end up in a situation like this. Maybe this is you right now, where you are in a role you don't like very much. Maybe you feel like you are kind of at a plateau because you keep going to interviews and you are not getting offers, or you're applying to roles and you're not getting interviews. And that might be because when people compare you to other candidates, Maybe you have all the basic skills, but you lack in these other areas that employers are looking for. And if you lack in these other skills, then that's going to mean that you're going to miss out on future opportunities, and you're going to have quite a difficult time when it comes to that job search and interview preparation process. All that to say that the best UX professionals I know, the people that I've watched get hired the fastest, are those people that focus on skills that go beyond these things I just spoke about. Because these things in front of you right now, learning new software, memorizing processes, terminology, deliverable making, and trends, those are all going to change. Instead, you need to focus on skills that will really be lasting, that are foundational. And what you need to do is focus on skills like these. So first we have the skill of presenting your work, not just being able to move the mouse that makes the deliverable, but talk about what you did, articulate your design decisions, tell people why you did what you did, because that's what you'll be doing in the real world. You will have to be speaking, presenting your work. You'll have to present it orally and written. And if you lack at those skills, that's going to make it really difficult for you to be collaborating on that team that you're on. Along with that, justifying your design decisions, not just making the thing, but being able to say, well, I did this because of this reason, or based on the business, we knew these goals would translate to these features, or the research that we did told us that these elements needed to be in the product, and that's why we did it this way. So justifying your decisions. Next, we have understanding business. Business is so crucial because that's going to allow you to be more of a collaborator. If you can be thinking not just about the interface, but the implications of what you do to the business, that's going to mean that you're going to get invited into conversations with the rest of the business sooner. The marketing department, the tech department, the sales department, customer service, whoever that is in your team. And that intel that you gather from those relationships is going to really help you create a better solution, because you will be armed with the information and knowledge that you need to not just make something that looks good or functions easily, but also maps back to those business needs and business goals. Next, you need to focus on the skills of collaboration and facilitation, because as you've maybe experienced, it's not just about doing the work, it's about being able to educate others about why you've done that work. And sometimes that involves a little bit of facilitation. Maybe you are doing some design thinking workshops. Maybe you are holding some co-creation sessions with other people on your team or in the company. If you can be an expert collaborator and an expert facilitator, that's going to, again, help you draw out the information that's across the company, that's across the team, and give you what you need to make a better solution. And finally, you need to commit to learning visual design principles. Now, I'm not saying you need to be an expert in Photoshop or Sketch or Illustrator or whatever it is, but timeless visual design principles such as typography, basic color theory, elements of white space, balance, alignment, etc. All of these things are going to help you when it comes to two things. First of all, presenting your work. If you have to make a keynote presentation, if you have to make a PowerPoint, if you have to make a portfolio, these skills and your understanding of visual design principles are going to help you more effectively communicate things. You've probably sat in a meeting where it was a terribly designed PowerPoint or keynote or something, and you couldn't understand what was being communicated, or you watched other people misinterpret what was being communicated because of maybe the impact that that visual design had or didn't have. So if you really want to be able to stand out and have impact and influence, you need to leverage visual design principles also, even if you are not a visual designer, meaning you're not going to make this pixel perfect design that a developer is then going to use to go develop it. These visual design principles are key to making basic wireframes, basic prototypes, etc., because they are going to make the stakeholders give you better feedback. If you can produce a better first, second, third version of the idea of the wireframe, etc., that's going to help everyone spot what's working, what's not working, and get to the next iteration faster. So if you are thinking to yourself, man, I'm so guilty of focusing on software or memorizing processes or trends or terminology, etc., you need to take a step back, because these skills that I'm telling you right now, these are the things that are going to matter in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years. These are the foundation to your career. And honestly, even if you left the world of user experience, these skills would be transferable to likely many other things that you might go on to do in your career. You really need to think of this like an iceberg. And I really love this analogy because I think it's going to make a lot of sense to you and really pull this all together. So think of it like an iceberg. Now, the skills that you're focusing on right now, they are what we see on the surface. And what you're ignoring is everything below. And there's a lot that happens down below the surface. And the thing is, that is what recruiters and hiring managers want to see. They want to see everything that is below the surface. So if you're currently trying to create your portfolio, or you're finding that you're not getting interviews, or you are not feeling confident when you go into interviews, or you're not getting that promotion, it might be because there are other candidates who are demonstrating these skills below the surface a lot more than you. So right now, especially if you're interviewing or working on your portfolio, consider if your portfolio is just full of screenshots and deliverables, if it's just showing what you did. That is probably why you're stuck, because what everyone wants to see, who's deciding whether or not you're going to get the interview or get the offer, etc., they want to see everything below the surface. They want to see that not only you can produce the work, but that you can demonstrate your process, that you can articulate your design decisions, that you're able to go beyond that what and tell people why you did what you did. So I want you to set some time aside to consider these skills that really are going to take you on UX 101, because these are going to equip you to be a stronger communicator, a better analyst, more effective at articulating your design decisions, more confident at collaboration and facilitation. And you're going to now hopefully focus on visual design principles, not trends, but principles, so that no matter what you're doing, if you're working on your resume, if you're working on a user flow, if you're working on a presentation or a proposal, you can leverage the power of visual design to help communicate your ideas more effectively. So one last thing I want you to think about, where are you at in your career? Are you kind of at the basics, I would say, where you're getting the job done, you can talk the talk, you can produce deliverables, you know all the methods, you're kind of book smart, if you will, or are you more moving towards being beyond the 101 of UX? And are you developing your communication skills, learning to think critically, being what I would call an instigator and an investigator, understanding business and kind of street smarts? If you can imagine, those people that maybe went to college or university and, sometimes they get called book smarts, but there's other people who didn't graduate from any post-high school education. Sometimes they're labeled street smart. And I think there's definitely value in both, but to be really effective and have influence once you're in, quote, the real world of UX, you really need to build on that book smart that you might have and focus on building up your street smarts so that you can move fast and have influence, have more confidence, and stand out in your career and on your team. So do me a favor. Tell me below in the comments where you're at in your career and what skills you feel like you really need to focus on in the coming weeks and months. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this helpful, I would love it for you to subscribe or like or leave a comment and let me know how this helped you at whatever stage you are at in your career. I'll talk to you soon.